The session was fantastic this year. It was probably one of the best that I think that I've witnessed since I've been watching. And if you're an Arkansan who wants and has been wanting conservative policy passed in this state, this session ought to excite you for the stuff that we did. We continue to lower taxes. We passed sweeping education choice to give kids every opportunity and parents the empowerment to see fit to how to educate their kids. On top of that, we certainly brought wide sweeping reform for criminal justice, which is much needed. So there was so much that we did. I was really excited for this session. I just feel like that this was one of those sessions that we have really been wanting for a long time in Arkansas, and we finally got it. Well, I think it's hard to narrow down just one single win. I think there were several. I think the wide sweeping school choice, the LEARNS Act, was huge. I think that was something that we needed to push back on the liberal left's agenda of indoctrinating our kids. And so that was a huge win. I think criminal justice reform was a huge win. I think the tax policy reforms that we saw, the repeal of the throwback rule, which was just an overly burdensome, basically a double taxation, if you will, for businesses in Arkansas. I think all of those things were huge wins. So it's hard to just narrow down one. I think those were things that really get me excited, should get Arkansans excited. So there were a lot of big wins this session, and that's not even taking into effect the wins of protecting kids from social media giants and from the LGBTQ agenda, the obscenity in our libraries, the books that they have access to that they shouldn't. So all of those were huge and big wins, and really excited to see those get passed. One of the things that I always look at in the session that I think that we can do a better job of, I think that we can always find ways to reduce government overreach and reduce the size of government, and I want to see that more in the coming sessions. And so I think that looks like a lot of ways, but at the end of the day, I want to make sure that we are always looking at ways to just reduce the size of government. Because if we want to continue cutting taxes and we want to continue seeing that income tax rate move down, then we're going to have to get really serious about reducing all the government programs and all the things that we've allowed government to get so big and bloated. We've got to reduce those things. So I want to see more of that. I think we can do a better job of that. I think we did some of that in this session, but there's still a lot more to do. This was the session that we've been wanting for a decade, right? And that's why I mentioned the repeal of the throwback rule. Like, that was a huge win that nobody really talks about, because there were so many big wins. There was the education reform and school choice, the parental empowerment. There was the criminal justice reform. There was, large tax cuts. There were all those things that just sort of capture everybody's attention, and that's what the media talks about. But like the repeal of the throwback rule and things to help our loggers and foresters in Southeast Arkansas. There were the bills that gave more protections to victims and to limit, the ability of child predators to have interactions, or even be around kids. Like, so many things like that would be just big wins by themselves. But when you put them in comparison with these massive sweeping policy reforms that we saw, they get sort of dwarfed. Leadership matters, and having a governor like Sarah is really what got us to where we are. Look, as I point out to people who ask that question, this is the first time that the governor's office has been passed from one Republican to the next. So I think in a lot of ways, unfortunately, we're not used to being in charge. We're sort of the dog that caught the car, and now we're learning to drive. But not just the governor, but we also had a huge turnover in both the House and Senate. And so there's no question that both chambers got more conservative this session. And not just conservative, they got more bold conservatives. And so, as I point out to people, I'm the first Republican to hold this seat, this Senate seat in Southeast Arkansas. So it's not like, we've held this seat for 10 years, right? This is my second term, going into my third. And so, but I told people day one when I got elected, I didn't get elected just because, I'm the best looking guy. That's clearly not the case. But I got elected because it was a mandate for conservatism. And so I think that Arkansans are realizing with what's happening everywhere else in the country that we're going to have to get really serious here, and they're demanding that of their elected representatives.